Warning: this content may be upsetting or disturbing to some audiences. The reason why that guy was hanging around us was because he was waiting for me to unlock my car. 3 stories of r/let's not meet, where people reveal true creepy encounters that changed them forever. A man approached me and my kids in a deserted mall parking lot at 10 o'clock at night and started talking to my kids. So, this happened about 5 years ago while I was 9 months pregnant. I was Christmas shopping at the mall with my then 7 and 15-year-old daughters one Saturday night in a very safe city with very low crime rate. There was an Applebee's connected to the mall, and we ended our shopping pretty late, and the mall stores were starting to close. So, I took my kids to the connected Applebee's for a late dinner. We finish up eating at about 10 p.m., and leave out the Applebee's entrance into the practically deserted parking lot with shopping bags in tow. As we got to the car, I was in the middle of maneuvering the shopping bags on my arms to find my keys, when a 50-year-old crusty-looking guy starts walking up from somewhere in the parking lot with shaggy gray hair and a faded flannel shirt and old jeans. I noticed him briskly approaching when he was about 40 feet away and he said, "This is a stick-up, give me all your money." My blood ran cold and I stared at him owlishly and shakingly said, "What?" He then said he was just kidding and came up and stood right next to my daughters who were standing on the other side of the car waiting for me to unlock the car to let them in. He then starts making small talk with me and my girls. He's asking things like if they were being good girls for Santa, how old they were, if we got all our Christmas shopping done, what kind of things did we get, etc. He didn't seem drunk, high, slow, or mentally challenged at all. He was very coherent and seemed of sound mind. Mind you, I was a heavily pregnant woman, alone with my 2 daughters in a mostly deserted parking lot at 10 o'clock at night, who was being approached by a stranger who came and stood right next to my kids on the other side of the car just shooting the breeze, talking to me and my kids with his hands in his pockets and occasionally looking over his shoulder. I didn't want to aggravate him, so I was politely conversing with him and trying to look calm and nonchalant while trying to disguise my frantic hands digging inside my giant purse for my car keys. This exchange went on for a couple minutes while he periodically kept looking over his shoulder. I was silently panicking and trying to politely keep the situation from escalating by calmly and nonchalantly talking to him, while also trying in vain to find my car keys to get us out of there. They were in there hiding good. I felt that at any moment he was going to pull a knife or gun, or rob me, and my kids were right next to him, away from their mother on the other side of the car, and I couldn't find my car keys to get my kids into the safety of the car. He kept trying to engage them in conversation, and I could see that my oldest daughter was a little weirded out, and she kept glancing at me to gauge my assessment and reaction to this situation. Kids often tend to not recognize potential danger when they are with their parents, since they see us as their protectors, and being that he was only talking and acting friendly, and I was doing my best to stay calm, they were oblivious to the alarming situation we all were in. And being 9 months pregnant and that I was no match for this full-grown man, especially if he was hiding a weapon on him. While still desperately digging for my keys, I tried to politely give him hints that the conversation was over by saying things like, "It was nice chatting with you, but I gotta get these kids to bed, and it was nice meeting you," and telling my girls to say that it was nice meeting him too. My polite attempts to get this guy to leave wasn't working because he kept sidestepping my attempts, and asking them what their favorite school subjects are and how nice young ladies they were, etc. While I was struggling with the shopping bags and digging in my giant cluttered purse for my car keys. My outgoing 7-year-old was completely oblivious to how not okay this situation was, because he was being friendly and because of the whole "I'm with mommy, so I'm safe" child mentality. So, she started to talk about what she picked out for daddy for Christmas, and started enthusiastically talking about kid stuff and asking him if he knew what Minecraft was, etc. And keeping this creep from leaving us alone by keeping him engaged in conversation. They didn't realize that I was becoming desperate to get them the hell out of there. Then I suddenly felt this sinking feeling of dread when I realized that I may have lost my keys in the mall, and that we were stuck outside with this strange man who kept looking over his shoulders and was showing no signs of walking away. And I was thinking that he was waiting for the perfect moment to pounce. All he had to do was grab one of my girls and threaten their life, knowing it would make me do whatever he wanted as long as he wouldn't hurt them. I started to feel my adrenaline start to spike, and my heart and stomach started doing flip-flops, and I felt like at any moment, was going to go down, as the gravity of realizing that there were no other people or witnesses around and that we were totally alone with him. And at that moment, the odds were stacked against us and that he has his chance. Then, he all of a sudden was all like, "Okay, it was nice talking with you, see you later." and walked off in the same direction as to which he came. It wasn't until then I found my car keys and unlocked the car, and told my kids to get in fast, and I got in too, and locked the doors and started the car and drove the hell out of there. My 15-year-old lightheartedly and jokingly said okay, that was weird, and laughed. I was overwhelmed with relief, and then I was confused over what just happened. I thought to myself, why the hell would a guy of seemingly sound mind think it's totally acceptable to go out of his way just to approach a woman and her kids in a deserted parking lot late at night just to chit-chat? But being that nothing bad happened, I brushed it off and joked about it too. When we got home, my husband greeted us and asked us how shopping went, and I said it went well, and my 15-year-old told him what happened in the parking lot and how weird it was, and was kinda joking about it. I started joking too, saying how I was mentally having a panic attack while trying to look calm, and I started making fun of myself by telling my husband how I was attempting to inconspicuously rummage through my purse to find my car keys. My husband went completely white, and I acknowledged his horrified look of alarm, and I assured him that, albeit creepy, the guy was just talking and eventually left on his own. Now, my father-in-law is a retired sheriff deputy, and my husband went through police academy training after graduating high school. He decided to go to business school instead of becoming a cop. And being that the knowledge he gained from that, plus growing up with a cop for a dad, I found out why my husband looked absolutely horrified when I told him the details. What my husband told me completely rattled me to the bone. My husband told me that he was 100% sure that the reason why that guy was hanging around us and chit-chatting was because he was waiting for me to unlock my car. And the reason why he was standing next to our kids was because once I unlocked the car, and the kids started to get inside, he was most likely going to force himself into the car with the kids and hold a knife or gun to them to gain leverage on me. To force me to cooperate, knowing that I wouldn't abandon my kids, which would force me to get into the car with them and do whatever he wanted me to do, which most likely would be to drive to a remote location to do God knows what. And being that he wasn't wearing a mask, suggests that his intentions were to also leave no witnesses to identify him. I then remembered that he was positioned by the back seat passenger door where my 7-year-old was standing by waiting to get in. My husband then told me that the most likely reason why the guy ended up leaving was because it took so long for me to find my keys, and the longer it took, the more anxious and spooked it made him. And that whole time, I was desperate to find my car keys, which through some sort of divine intervention, stayed hidden in my purse, thus saving us from potentially being abducted. This is something that was super traumatic for me. But it was never discussed again in my household. I was talking with my mom about it the other night and she still didn't say much. Thought I would share my thoughts with you all. When I was 13 I got a Dell desktop for school. The internet was fairly new for me back in 2003. AOL and MySpace. Yahoo Messenger. AOL chatrooms. 16/F/Cali anyone? AOL chatrooms was where I went. I was a shy, overweight kid back then. Still shy to this day. But online I could be anyone. I could say anything. It was amazing. I discovered so many things when I got the internet. If I could be anyone, so could someone else. Thus how I met one 27-year-old man. One night I logged on. The AOL dial-up sound still makes me feel uneasy. I was sitting in my cold dark kitchen. The computer was here so I could be monitored. It was just me and my mom though, and she was always working. So no one ever really monitored me. Plus she had no idea how to use a computer, so I got away with a lot. I was bored so I hopped into an AOL chat room. Lurked for a bit, then 15/F here. I was really 13 but saying I was 15 made me feel so much more mature. Private message incoming. Hey, my name is Rob, where you from? And that's how it started. I told him where I was from. That I was in high school. Which wasn't a lie. My school was from 7th to 12th grade. You? 19/MNY. Oh man, was it cool to be talking to an older guy. And boy was he cute. Honestly I don't really remember much. Maybe I blanked it out, maybe my memory is just shot. I do remember emails back and forth. The occasional phone call. I remember finding out he was talking to another girl and I wanted to break things off, but he begged and pleaded until I caved. Then the let's meet. I was nervous. He had never asked for a pic. Had never really asked for much from me. Just the emails back and forth. A phone call a day. But somehow he made me feel safe. Made me feel wanted. Cared for. He drove from New York to West Virginia one day. My mom worked right beside my house, so he parked about a quarter mile away and took the back alley to enter my house. My friend was with me when he showed up. but was scared when she seen him and ran out the back door. I maybe should have taken a hint from that, but I just stood on the back porch with my head down. Was given a hug as he led me inside. Not 5 minutes after being there, sitting on the couch, did he move things further. Then further, even into my bedroom. I won't get into the details on what happened next. I assume most can guess. After that he left, with instructions to get in his car after I get off the school bus and we will go on a date. I had no idea where he was staying. I lived extremely far in the country, an hour's drive from the closest hotel. The next day I get ready for school, ride the bus for the 45-minute drive. And as soon as I hop off in the school parking lot I get directly into his car. No one noticed. No one said anything. We drive around. Never go on a date. He just finds different places to park so that he can use me. I notice a photo of another young girl 15 or 16 in the visor of his car. Question him. Believe when he tells me it's his cousin. Believe when I question why his hairline is receding so much. Believe him when he tells me I can't see his driver's license because he left it in the hotel. Believed him when he said he loved me. I get dropped back off at school. Super sad that he was going back home. With promises he will call. Again, everything feels very fuzzy. I can't remember many emotions from this time. I do remember that a few days later my mom says she found out I skipped school with a man. That I was never to see him again. And that was that. I do remember sending an email. I do remember a late night phone call. I do remember saying I wish I could just live with you. I remember him suggesting to come get me. I remember saying okay. Days later, by the time he made the drive again, I was feeling iffy about leaving my mom. I loved her after all. I didn't think things through. I didn't put much thought into anything really. Packed a few clothes in a suitcase. Forgot all underwear. That is one of my sharpest memories. I felt bad that he drove 8 hours to get me, so I left in the middle of the night. Got in the car to him and his cousin. He got in the back seat with me. Proceeded to have sex with me while his cousin drove. Then get back in the front seat. This happened a few times between my home and his. The drive took forever. I had nothing to drink. Was offered nothing when they got something. They stopped to nap at a rest stop and I attempted to call my mom, which was disabled on our phone. I dug around for some change to get something to drink but couldn't afford anything in the convenience store. So I drank out of the truck stop sink. Hours later we park a block away from his house while he runs to get something. I am sitting in the back seat, waking up from a nap when around 8 or so men and women in black suits surround the car, screaming for us to get out with our hands up. My first thought, first 10 minutes in New York and I am already being robbed. I am terrified. I get out and a man pulls me over to the curb while the other officers force his cousin onto the ground. All the while they are asking my name and age. Telling me to tell his cousin my age. I am put in the back of an unmarked car. Driven to the NYPD. Past reporters, cameras, news trucks. Snuck into the back of the station, where I see Rob in handcuffs for the last time. And for in love 14-year-old me this is devastating. I am taken into a room and questioned for hours. I am then taken to the hospital. Then a hotel where a nice woman brings me Taco Bell and stays with me as I fall asleep. The next day 2 FBI officers escort me home on a plane, where I get off and where I am greeted by police officers, my mother, and a horde of news reporters. I later found out that when my mom reported me missing the police didn't want to do much. They didn't even take the picture of me. She had his license plate number. She remembers seeing his car parked by the road that first meeting. She took note since it was an out-of-state car. Thanks to her being vigilant. I do find this is the only reason I am alive today. The police said they would look into it, but that wasn't enough for my mom. She contacted a family friend who in turn contacted the governor of West Virginia, who in turn made the police look further into it. After they ran the license number, looked into the man, found out who he was. That was when they issued an Amber Alert, noting that I was in extreme danger. My cousin told my mom that he looked at Rob's rap sheet and it was a mile long, but wouldn't tell my mother what was on it, for fear of scaring her more. I never went to court. I never went to any hearings. But I did fall into a horrible depression. My friends' parents wouldn't let them hang out with me. People spray-painted slut on my locker at school. I had no friends, but most of all I thought a man was in prison for loving me. When I learned he got sentenced to 10 years in prison, which he served every year of, I became deeply troubled. I was in and out of the mental hospital for self-harm for years, on a slew of depression medication. Psychiatrists never talked to me about anything. I had to process it all myself. My teenage years were better though. I transferred schools, made best friends, graduated. But still in the back of my mind I felt that I was the reason a man lost 10 years of his life. Until I was told he was let out of prison. A couple of years after he was out I contacted him on Facebook. At the time I was around 24 or 25. He told me that if I ever contacted him again he would kill both me and my mother. That he still knows where I live. I had no idea what he planned to do with me. My mom thinks it is selling me to a sex trafficker. I was told that he had other girls my age he was talking to. Some good things happened because of my kidnapping. Schools all over my state started internet safety education classes. Kids were taught safety. Parents were taught how to keep kids safe. No other girls were taken by this man. So, to the man who ruined so many years of my life, I am 29 now. I am happy, healthy, and I have zero remorse that you are now listed as a level 3 sex offender and that you were in prison for so many years. Honestly, I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be nice but every red flag was raised and every alarm inside me was going crazy. This happened a few hours ago and I'm safe now. I don't think I have anything to worry about. I'm going to another country to see a band I love. I found a cheap Airbnb online and booked it. I was supposed to come in late last night but flight was delayed, train missed, a nightmare trip overall. I was supposed to get to his place after midnight and he told me that was totally fine. I checked the reviews about him and all of them said that he was a lovely host and really nice. But I noticed that all these reviews had been written within a few weeks. Red flag number 1. Then I missed the final train and was unable to get to the place so I told him that I couldn't make it, but will be there tomorrow, today, a few hours ago, and he said it was okay. I got to the train station of the city I'm in and I decided to walk because I hadn't that much cash with me. I walked for about 40 minutes and get to a place that could be called run down at best. I see drug dealers everywhere, you can just tell sometimes. The door which had the right number on it was just a white door next to a shop. Red flag 2.